Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, folks. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of 5 Live Coaching. What we put in play here at Duffin Media is the chance to come in live, interrupt your lunch, so to speak, unless you're a West Coaster. And then good morning. And I've got several West Coasters that I've got on my mind today as well, too. But meanwhile, what do we get to do? As we go live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I welcome your participation. It makes it more fun when it's interactive. What we get to do is we optimize your communications by leveraging your voice. What exactly does that mean? Look, we're delivering tips, techniques to help you come on stronger to close sales deals, build and leverage relationships, improve situations, and here's the biggie: minimize risks and implosions in business that happen only all the time simply because you didn't take all the extra steps or the necessary steps. So the things that I touch on, these tips and techniques, the whole deal is what we get to do is every time I get to show up live, I drop a tip or technique that can help you today. That's always my mission, my goal. By the way, if for any chance, and I don't think he's here, Tommy Kenyon is watching the live or the replay, I hope he sees that I figured out a technical deal on StreamYard thanks to him. So I am over the moon grateful to Tommy and all my Summit of Greatness Lewis Howes crew. I am not at the conference this weekend in Los Angeles, and God, am I bummed. I have the time of your life. But folks that are here with me on LinkedIn Live, on Facebook Live, or YouTube Live, here's what you get to do. Drop a note in the comments. This way, I get to see that you're here. And what we get to do is interact a little bit better, customize a little bit more so that we can bring it to your situation. So the reminder, again, what we get to do, deliver tips today that will improve your communications today to help you to avoid landmines, help you to avoid that sense of doubt or confusion, not just on their part, the client, the agency, the home buyer, whatever field you happen to be in, your audience. Not just confusion on their part, but confusion and regret on your part, okay? Because, yes, I've talked about in prior live communications, I've talked about the fact that sales is often a progressive relationship where you get multiple chances to bring in multiple things and add multiple pieces to the puzzle. But sometimes that is not always true, okay? And I'm going to give you an example. Folks, every day we pull up a situation that I have encountered directly, whether I have been in management or whether it has been in sales. And trust me, folks, I've been in both for over 25 years. So I have lived these situations. That's why I feel confident regarding to bringing problem solution to the board. The other option is when people directly ask me for questions and they're cool enough to allow me to share. This situation has come up all the time because when I talk about optimizing communications, sometimes there's a lack of clarity, and I'm going to take that on me, okay? So I want to make certain that I am abundantly clear that the reason and the purpose that you need, not want, need to optimize your communications is because anytime you are talking about money in personal life, in business, money, folks, if you happen to be here, what are some examples where you are talking about money in any personal or business when money is involved? Exactly. A sale, right? If you happen to be in anything that impacts revenue from a sales side, You're a salesperson. You're a sales executive. You are a sales leader. You are an executive manager where you are managing sales teams. If you are a general manager in my former field, all of this is money. On a personal vein, it's really clear when money is involved. You just know. So here's a scenario that comes up a lot. I'm going to give you the scenario, then give you some not so good options and some good options. Okay. For the situation, we talk about doing a ton of prep work. Do your homework. Make sure you've got everything buttoned up. And then you have someone say, hey, look, I know that I should do a lot of prep. I know I really should do my homework. It's a big meeting, but I get concerned that if I do, that'll cramp my style. I have a certain style when I sell. It just happens to flow and I'm in the situation. I prefer to just wing it. And very few people have been that blunt. I prefer to just wing it. But they'll say things like in code, my style is this. I just kind of free flow, go with the flow. And that's great. So my question, dear diary, why do I have to do all this work? Well, you don't have to. Nobody says you have to do anything in life, right? Unless you are in prison. I'm not speaking to that crew today because it's different rules and regs. I have complete respect. But let me get away from that aspect, folks. If you happen to be seeing me, I respect everybody. But I want to bring something else to the table. When I say that it is critical that you get your intended message received, this is the tactical approach, because I want to discuss today very specifically why it matters. And then you'll see we kind of drift off, and you'll see we're not going to drift off for long. Why does that matter, taking that tactical approach? Why does that matter that your intended message get received? Intended message. What's in it for? Well, I'll ask you what's in it for. Remember, from the client side, from the ad agency side, whether it's your boardroom, whether it is your senior management team, whoever you're speaking to and with, remember, it only matters if it matters to them. They're going to listen more intently. They're going to contribute more when you hit the right notes that allow them to come into a conversation, and you're just not bah, 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 and another thing about me, bah, 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 bah. Number one, that's why you're doing your homework, okay? Now, folks, I'll ask, what is homework? It's not a pop quiz, but I'm just going to ask point blank. What do I mean by doing homework? Here's a clue. Have you done your research? Have you done the basics? Have you reviewed your prior notes? Well, we spoke before. What did you talk about? Well, we talked about, this next opportunity, blah, blah, whatever, right? More specifically, did you review your notes from prior conversations? Now, we've talked about this in the past, but I'm going to do a quick step backwards. Review your notes. What are your notes? Every time you have a conversation, there should be notes. And you don't want to impede your own flow, so to speak. Here's when you take your best notes. Obviously, when you're actually speaking. But if you don't want to break up the flow of a conversation, my reminder to you, you really want to make it matter. You really want to make this land, so to speak, immediately after a communication. Whether it's a phone call. Do people still do that? I guess it's more like that now. Here. So after a phone call, right? The moment that phone call concludes and you hit end, you write the notes immediately. Not when you get back to the office, not when you in your next good mood. You do it immediately. How long does that take? Okay. We'll definitely talk on Monday. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Now, everything that was said, write it down. Well, what do you write down? Everything that you can remember. He's wearing a navy blue shirt. He's got that microphone right here. But what's it doing? It's jarring your mind to remember important stuff. Now, going back to that situation that we talked about before, Why do I have to do all that work? Because it will help you in future conversations. So, how long does that download take that I was just talking about? Honest to God, it might take 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. 2 or 3 minutes. Write everything you can remember. When are you done? Well, when you're done. How do you know you're done? Well, you're done. That's an inside joke with my best friend about baked potatoes, and I won't get all involved in that today. But I will say this. When you're done, here's how you know you're done taking the notes. When you start to blank. And if you blank a couple times, you're about ready to wrap up, right? You know what I mean? You'll know. You're like, okay, I can't think of anything else. All right, fine. You're done. Now, that's what I'm talking about in regards to it only matters if it matters to them. Did you do your homework? Did you go back through those notes, taking any critical bit of information? Navy shirt isn't going to be much critical, but it might have reminded you, oh, yeah, they told me that they've spoken to multiple salespeople about this specific budget or situation or whatever. And here was a concern. Oh, right. Make certain you address that because, again, it only matters if it matters to them. Do your homework. Be prepared. Every bit of inside information, use it. Now, today we go through as well, too. Make it also matter to you. No regrets. What do I mean? Obviously, that sounds selfish. And we talk about coming from contribution. I'm not a big believer in win-win. Just not. That's me personally. And again, I'll stand my sales and management chops up against anybody, but I don't consider myself above everyone else. We all learn things. Here's why I'm not the big win-win. If the client wins, you're going to win, as opposed to I need to win too. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to say that again. When your client and your company wins, you automatically win too, right? As opposed to I have to also win. Two different things. So how do you make it matter without turning it into some selfish thing? I'll tell you what. Today. This is as relevant to me personally as today. Leave no question or concern unaddressed. We've talked about having difficult conversations in the past. I just had a podcast interview. I don't typically self-promote, but I'm going to tell you, really pay attention to this person, Morgan Denicola. And if she happens to be watching today live, I am really grateful for you, right? Leave no question or concern unaddressed. Very specifically, you have things in the back of your mind in a situation, and you're thinking, if I ask them that, they may, I'm going to share a personal situation, and then I'll help you address that, right? You can't be a mind reader. People get agitated if they have to come back and revisit things that should have been visited immediately. So you want to get your intended message received, ask all the questions so that you have no regrets. That's how you win. That's how you win. You know, you gave everything you could to that client. So I remember for me, with this specific example, having multiple situations where I would be afraid to ask something difficult because I'd be afraid personally that you'd run away from me. I remember I didn't even come out of the closet until I was close to 40. No, I was 40 years old, 40, before I came out of the closet because I was so deathly afraid that if I told you that, you would run away, beat me up, tell your friends, point and laugh, whatever, right? So I say this to you because I wasted a lot of time. I had all sorts of mental angst. I had so much clouding my head, my judgment, my business acumen, because I had all that stuff bubbling, right? I'm not saying you all have to come out of the closet. And if you did, great. But what you could do is, you might have a difficult question with an advertiser. Maybe, for instance, I'll give you a couple of examples. Maybe you came up short in a solution situation before. What do I mean? You proposed something and it meant nothing to an advertiser. Give you another example. You proposed something and they did it and it didn't work as well as you had hoped or as well as you had offered, right? Get in front of it. Don't run from it, because relationships get compromised and really lost when you leave things out of a conversation. So, how do you make sure things land? And I say, talk about asking the difficult conversation. Leave a communication with no regrets. Don't allow yourself thinking, I'll get to talk about it next time. Maybe you won't. Think about personal situations where you thought you were going to salvage a friendship or a situation and you didn't. And you just lived your life feeling badly. Or in a business situation, maybe they don't take your next meeting. Maybe they don't, right? Or maybe they stall you for months and you lose momentum, right? So bring things into a conversation. But what do you do? Here's how you go about it, right? Gather your thoughts. We've talked about this before. Keep it simple. What's the most pressing need in the business situation? In this business situation, I say, what is the most pressing need in your business? Really, it's in their business when you're speaking, right? But what's the most pressing need now? Ask it first. Don't wait. Don't think, you know what, I'm going to get comfortable first. We're going to chit chat first. We're going to hang out, have lunch, have some fun. And then later today or tomorrow, maybe I'll bring it up. Maybe they won't even worry about it anymore. So I'll just hold it, right? I always say, ask someone else who matters. Talk to someone. Should I bring it up in a situation? Business. And again, we're focusing on business today. This happens in personal life. It has happened with me. I don't want you to have any regrets, right? I've had them. That's why. I'm not pointing a finger. I'm not wagging, but ask someone who matters. In a business situation, bring it to light. I had a situation literally where I asked a question because the client that was given to me, entrusted to me as a better choice, because it was part of a list that I had received when I worked for a television company. And a major, major advertiser was one of the clients that was entrusted to me to resuscitate. And they were having, the television company was having problems with this advertiser. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I literally called them and said, so what is the problem? And by the way, I asked one additional question prior. Almost forgot it. So I'll just bring it up now. I did my homework. I spoke to management and I led with the following. With this client, first communication, phone communication, conference call. Hey, here's how I understand the current situation. In the past, you've been dissatisfied with certain aspects of our delivery without compromising the client or the company. I'm not going to get into a lot of nuts and bolts, but we offered something and they didn't get it. They didn't get what they paid for, okay? So I led with that. Show of hands or in the comments, who thinks that's a fun thing to start a conversation with? God almighty. I'd rather, hey, what about them Phils? Go Phillies, right? And all that kind of cheerleading stuff. Here's why I did it and why I suggest you do too. It mattered to them. They have been holding business because they were upset that no one was addressing the primary concern. They were just going to move forward, and that's a mistake. So I said, do I understand you correctly? Is that so? Immediately, the client, the company says, yes, that is so. We're really frustrated because we've had difficulty, and they tell me everything. In 5 minutes, I now know what matters most to this client in 5 minutes. So, do I immediately need to solve it in 5 minutes? Because the client's time, the client's resources all really matter. I didn't need to solve it. I needed to, one, acknowledge it. Okay, I hear you. I get this. I respect it. And then agree and validate that it's real. If it wasn't real, I could bring up certain aspects of things. And again, remember, this is taking minutes, not hours, weeks, or whatever. A little bit of prep work, getting in front of a situation and not wasting the client's time, not wasting my own. We're probably all 5 minutes into a conversation. It's probably taking me longer to explain it than in the reality of having it work. So I talk about questioning everything. Did I have this right? Did I remember it correctly? Hey, here's what I see in regards to the history. Are we all on the same page? Because then you're giving them the ability to understand, right? This is a calculated risk because nobody wants to get yelled at or have to confront something. Nobody does. We've talked about having difficult conversations. Again, I alluded to Morgan Denicola on the last podcast in ways to better have stronger, difficult conversations, right? But you're going to take a calculated risk. That's what you're going to do. How do you take that risk specifically? Well, here you go. That risk. Hey, here's how I understand the situation. And I'm sorry that this has gone in for as long as it has. Obviously, everyone's been trying to reconcile a situation like this. It just hasn't happened yet. The calculated risk. Here's what I would like to propose to you. And again, you don't have to have all the answers to all the questions or all the concerns, but you have to at least acknowledge you're going to try to get there. Here's what I propose to you in this situation. I'm going to do a little more digging now that I know this is exactly with a concern. What I did, a numerical reconciliation. You paid X, you received Y, and therefore, and in this case, there was a shortfall in the delivery. I'm going to go back and do that for you so that we have everything, and I'm going to send it to you, and then I'll contact you. That's how that went down. By the way, from that moment, everything got easier. That initial conversation, everything, all the stuff, let's talk Phillies, do you like sports? All of that now is starting to happen because it matters to them. And you don't go back and leave a conversation worried, oh my God, thank God that didn't come up. Oh my God, thank God. It comes up. If there is something difficult or challenging, you bring it up. Why? The client knows, the company knows it is on their mind. They don't forget stuff. But what does that do? It makes you feel better. Not only now, we talked about it has to matter to them. Here's how it matters to you. It frees up some bandwidth so that you can legitimately solve current, real, important situations, not whatever manufactured nonsense is in your mind. So address the tougher questions because you add credibility to where you're going and what you want to have happen, right? So, and by the way, I have in my mind inherently a little bit of the cowardly lion in me. I'd rather let stuff just magically solve itself, right? Well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. Time, age, experience for me. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's got to be you. And so, broker of record for a brokerage firm in Philadelphia. I always love this line. You got to put on your big boy pants and go solve it. Sometimes you do. Big person pants, right? Go solve it. Go address it and solve it to the best of your ability. Here's what happens when it matters to everyone here, right? You're enforcing the right things. So that's the way you solve something. You want to make it matter to you, how it matters to you. You leave a situation with no regrets. You tried, you addressed it. It's not your job to make everyone happy. It's your job to make certain that everyone is heard. And when I talk about getting your intended message received, that's how you do it. And I'll share this. And that's why it matters. People have said things to me, and I really appreciate it. It's a little bit off, but I'll take I'll take blame for it, right? Oh, I didn't know when you talked about, leveraging your voice. Did you mean sounding a little more announcery, or I'd like to sound a little less nasal, or a little more this? All of that is great, but really, it's not where I'm going. I want you specifically. I'm challenging, I'm empowering you to find and utilize your best, most true, authentic business voice. Every podcast I host, I say the same thing in the intro. Find your best, most true, authentic business voice. I'll even say it for you. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results. Heck, your most authentic voice. Take the word business out and then use it in business. Your most true, authentic voice. Why? It's your most engaging. It's your most courageous. It is your most true, which means you're going to radiate natural passion and energy. And the problem-solving ability really comes from a clear head. I just gave you my mystery secret. The clearer your head, the more engaged you can be, the more you can lock into an individual or a group, the more that you can solve a problem. You automatically become more brave. You automatically become more engaging because you took that calculated risk before. That's, like I said, that's the calculated risk. It's not selfish, right? Where you win, you walk away with a clear head. I did my best. I left everything on the table. And you're actually now, when your relationship progresses, number one, they allow it. That's what you want. Another chance, another opportunity. Nobody is entitled to that. But when I talk about leveraging your voice, optimizing your communications, honest to God, that's where I'm going with it. And folks, does anybody have any questions in regards to why it matters to optimize your communications? And more importantly, what's in it for you? That's what I'm empowering you with this afternoon. Today, Friday, your next communication. Here's your checklist. And by the way, we're going to talk about checklists in a second, but I'm going to say this to you. Your checklist for this afternoon, your mental checklist, is to do the following. Your next phone call, your next appointment, what's the prep work? Go back and check your notes. Go back. This does not take forever. Then find any current relevant new information. Has something happened with that company, right? 3, ask someone who matters. Have I covered everything? Did I include everything? Did I leave anything out when I talk to whoever? Okay, so there's your top 3. I'll repeat it, right? Number 1, go back for your former notes. If it's your first communication, remember the tactic. Every conversation, the moment the conversation ends, write down what happened. You trust your memory because 5 minutes after that, you remember less. An hour later, you remember far less. The science backs it up. So the moment the conversation ends, find a quiet space, start writing stuff down. Everything that you can remember. And I mean everything. Don't edit it. Don't format it. Just scribble like a nut. Number 2. After you've done that and you've now reviewed the notes, right? What happened before? Oh, right. Double check yourself. Do some research on the company. I mean, minutes. Go to Google and just see, or whatever data you utilize as a company or corporation that you have access and or are privy to. And then 3, when the meeting really matters, show it to somebody. Talk to somebody before. Hey, I'm worried about blah, 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 or this has happened in the past. I'm a little bit concerned. How do you think I understand this correctly? How would you go about it? Do it. And then take the calculated risk. Don't wait until a certain point in the meeting. Don't save it as your aha at the end. Lead with the difficulty. So I said 4 tips. I said 3, there's 4. There's 4. nail it this afternoon. If you are lucky enough to not have a problem situation, guess what? You haven't done enough homework because everybody's got something they want to solve. So I'm empowering you to take that calculated risk today. By the way, here's what's in it for you for hanging with me today, live and on replay. My handy dandy optimized communications checklist. What is that? It's a series of things just to trigger your mind and your memory. You could put that up in your cubicle. Do people even have them anymore? Because everybody's into open floor plans and open spaces, right? So put it on your wall in your office. Tape it to your desktop. Tape it to your monitor. Have it in front of you, because whether it's a team situation, an individual situation, do a quick checklist to make sure, did you handle the necessary steps? By the way, it will be hard for you to see, but I'll make this even easier for you. My email address, folks, JD, my initials, JD at duffinmedia, one word.com. You may see it here. I don't know how to zoom in on this. I wish I did. But it's JD at duffinmedia.com. Send me an email that says either tips or checklists, and I promise you, you will get it. Send me the email that you want it, and you'll have it today. And again, use this today. Why? Because again, you're going to feel better. And when you feel better, you have more bandwidth. You become more of a lightning rod in a good way to solve situations and address them. And your clients, your agency, your colleagues, your bosses will want to communicate with you more. And that's exactly what you want. So, any questions whatsoever in terms of what we've covered today, which I know was a lot, but it matters. And I want to make sure that you remember it needs to matter to you, and it only matters to you if it matters to them, right? So, folks, thanks so much for staying with me. I have promised myself and everyone around me that I would keep this to about a half hour maximum. So I'm going to sign off today. Go use this today. And again, use that email for the checklist, or email me and let me know how you made out when you did that today. That's what I'm asking. Your commitment, try it. And then, as I said, if you need me for more specifics, come get me. Email me, get the tip sheet. You want a conference, or you want a discovery call, I always throw them on the house one. I'm right here. Get at me. But folks, have a wonderful rest of the day. Have a great weekend. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Be good to yourselves, right? Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye.